Matt Jolly, right here on Georgia Radio.
Well, it's not every day you get a Grammy winner on the show, but John Barry, a fellow Georgian, is on with us today. John, thanks for coming on Georgia Radio again. Great to hear you.
You bet. Good to be with you.
Only what? I didn't do the math, and it's math in public. 200 and something days left till Christmas, and then
come on.
I can't even remember my favorite. Somebody said the other day. They said my favorite months are the Burr months, and I love that. And you're a Christmas guy. I mean, through and through, everybody knows you for your Christmas concerts, and you have a couple of dates in Georgia just to put on the calendar early. Cedartown, the 18th of December, and Macon, Georgia, the 21st. Boy, Macon is like Music City, really and truly. I mean, so much great music has come from Macon, Georgia. So,
no doubt.
Good stuff down there. All right, we're not talking about Christmas, though, today. We're talking about your show, March the 23rd, up in the Anderson Music Hall, the historic Anderson Music Hall in Hiawassee, Georgia. And this is with the frontman, is it not?
Yes, it is. And if people are not familiar with the frontman, you really are. You just don't know it.
You just don't know it. Where do we know him from?
Little Texas.
Yeah, there you go.
You know them from Little Texas, Lone Star, and Restless Heart. I couldn't think of Restless Heart to save my life. But Larry and Tim Rushlow and Richie McDonald, all great singers. And I'm going to open the show, and then they're going to come on, and every song they do is hit after hit after hit after hit. And it's a great show they put together.
You've been in, what now, 3-4 decades at least, playing music. How did you get started? I've never asked you that, but how did you get started? Was it a love that just came naturally, or where did it come from?
Yeah, I always loved music. I was a kid growing up in Atlanta and Decatur, listening to WQXI 79 AM. And it was a Carole King album my sister got, Tapestry. It was such a cool thing to hear this lady who wrote all her own songs and all these guest artists on her record, James Taylor, and just different people that played, these well-known musicians playing on her record and stuff. It was so cool. And that was when I was living in Decatur, and I just started playing guitar when I was about 12. Had gone to elementary school with all the same kids and started high school with all the same kids. And then over Thanksgiving break, I've been playing guitar for about 3 months. By Thanksgiving, 4 months. And we moved. We moved to, it wasn't that far, about 9 miles. Might as well have been 1,000 miles for a 13-year-old who doesn't drive.
Right.
So all of a sudden, all these kids I was in school with, I didn't know anybody at my new school. I'm my older brother, but you know how that is. And my guitar became my best friend. And so it really, that was a pretty pivotal point that I really started diving into music. I'm going to make great friends with some great musicians, lifelong friends with some great musicians in high school. And then the house we lived in had a cool basement. My dad helped me build a studio down there, and I actually recorded my first 3 albums in that studio.
No kidding.
Yeah, they're horrible as they are. That's what I know.
Oh, come on now.
And you laugh.
No.
You'd hear them and go, yeah, he was right.
Well, doesn't everybody feel that way, though? I mean, anytime you have, early works in a creative type career, I mean, you look back and you're like, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? But,
yeah.
There's something to be said for VHS, when you start off in television. My son asked me the other day, he's like, do you have any old stuff? And I'm like, yeah, and hopefully it's all rotten, on VHS and forgotten. It's not on social media like everything is today. So
true.
Sort of a luxury from back then, really.
Back when private was private.
Yeah. Well, you've had a great run. I mean, a phenomenal career, and the North American Country Music Hall of Fame just inducted you, just earlier this week, in fact, the 16th.
And this past weekend, we were there at the Pigeon Forge, and they had the ceremony and stuff. It was a lot of fun. Had a lot of friends from all over show up, and along with myself and Randy Travis and Barbara Fairchild and Mel Tillis was inducted as well. And so it was just a lot of fun to be there with all those folks.
Boy, I'll say, rarefied air up there with Randy Travis and all the likes. How's he doing?
He was good, and he and I had a chance to visit for a few minutes, and he's doing well.
Oh, that's great. Do you have friends from? I'm sure you do. You know, the buckboard circuit was so big in Atlanta, and you were kind of right in the middle of all of that. There was this phenomenon that happened back in the '80s with country music, especially around here, where the likes of Travis Tritt and yourself and all these people were coming up. What was it like back then around Atlanta in the country music scene?
It was a lot of fun. You know, Miss Kitty's is where I've played a lot. And I played at the Buckboard a couple of times when they had the Marlboro Country Music Talent Roundup back in the 80s. And I was a part of that, and that was always held at the Buckboard, and then the finals were held at Miss Kitty's. And but that was a lot of fun. And Miss Kitty's, of course, you know, Danny Shirley and Confederate Railroad were the house band, basically. They'd play there for 2 weeks, and then they'd be gone for 2 weeks, and we'd come play. Then they come back for 2 weeks, and then Little Texas would come in for 2 weeks. And Danny'd come back for 2 weeks, and Travis Tritt would come in for 2 weeks. You know,
isn't that great?
So it was quite a turn of musicians, and that came through there. Pretty remarkable.
You know, Georgia has always had this. We were talking before we started the interview. There's just something in the water when it comes to music, but we don't have what I would consider a definitive Georgia sound. And so one of the goals of starting Georgia Radio was to be a home for new artists who are on their way up. And, you know, Texas has this, and I know you're getting ready to play a bunch of dates in Texas. There's this entire Texas music scene, and friends like Corey Morrow and folks like that, they never leave. They don't have to leave because they can play within the state of Texas, and they have their own thing. You know, for the most part, if you're living in Georgia, Nashville's just a few hours away. And so everybody just goes to Nashville, and that uniquely Georgia sound that the world loves sort of just gets absorbed. And you know, what's your advice to these folks who are starting out? And I'm careful not to say young, because some of the best artists that we're playing right now are not young. And we go around to all these, you know, open mic nights and whatnot, and there's folks just swinging for the fences, and they send stuff to Georgia Radio, and that's what we want. But what do you want to tell these folks who are starting out?
Well, there's a lot of great music in Georgia. There are a lot of great people that can help you achieve your goals in Georgia. It's not quite like it used to be, where the labels held all the power. The internet's leveled the playing field pretty much. It's like, you know, it's like how you mentioned about the folks in Texas. There are guys in Texas. Matter of fact, there's a group in Texas. I won't mention their name, but they're very famous out there. And that's Southwest. They had a bus. They're touring all over, and just killing it. And then they got a record deal, and they couldn't get anything happen. And just nothing. And now I think they're back playing in Texas and doing their Southwest thing and killing it again.
Yeah.
So one thing is if I had to do it all over again, I don't think I would have moved here. I think I would have bought a house earlier up here to have a condo or a small house that I could base out of and come here often to have a presence here. But I don't think I would have moved and, you know, uprooted everying.
You miss that farm in Athens, don't you?
Oh yeah.
Well, but I'm sure they miss you too, you know. So.
But it's because it can be done from anywhere. It really can. But you do have to have it. You need to be where the people who can help you can. So if that's in Atlanta, you got to have a presence there. If it's in Nashville, you got to have a presence there. If you're trying to get into movies, you don't need to be in Arkansas. You need to go visit folks in LA. But you can't just show up once and go, it didn't work, so I'm leaving. You have to have a presence, you know. and go often and just be there and doesn't mean you got to uproot everything and go and stay. Just have to have that constant presence and that ongoing availability to meet with people and of course, in Georgia, if you're trying to do some things in Nashville, like you say, it's just down the street.
It really is. Yeah, 5 hours, 6 hours for a lot of folks, and there's a lot of young talent on the younger side that's coming up right now, age-wise. Let me say that. And then we have this blend and this unique thing of folks that are well established in a career. Maybe they're getting ready to retire, and they've. One guy comes to mind. He had his shot, and he found himself as a single father, and he just couldn't leave at that point. And so he held off, and now he's making a run for it. And our friend Mark Ware is doing just great with it. But he was a fire chief, and his road manager is the sheriff right now of Butts County. I love it. So how's that for fun, And
that's pretty cool.
I just love him, and he's doing great work. But you're going to be up there at the Anderson Music Hall in Hiawassee. Is there a more beautiful fairground to play at than the Georgia Mountain Fairgrounds? If there is, I don't know.
It's a pretty cool setup. It really is awesome.
Oh, I love it.
That's it.
You're going to be
always a good audience up there.
Well, you got the frontman coming, and it's going to be a great show. If folks want to get tickets, John, how can they do it?
I know there's a link at johnberry.com, and you can go there and click on that show, and it'll take you to the Georgia Mountain Fair. And I'm sure GeorgiaMountainFair.com's got a site, but just go to johnberry.com and see what you can find there and come see us.
Well, we'll put a quick link onto the show site just to make it a little bit easier for everybody, too. But then, again, Christmas, not that far away, Cedartown and Macon, Georgia, both on the world-famous John Berry Christmas Tour, because that is a staple. I mean, it's not Christmas until you start singing.
And we'll be in Athens, Georgia, as well.
Well, fantastic.
So kind of circling around the state there. So.
Well, listen, John Berry, thanks for coming on the show, and I really appreciate your support of Georgia Radio. Thanks for being on here today.
You bet. Good to be with you, friend.
All right. John Berry, everybody. We'll be right back with more great music after this.
Georgia Radio, on your phone, in your home, everywhere you go.